Witness 1 in Trump trial day 3 is Lisa Birnbach. She is the author that E. Jean Carroll called allegedly right after the incident happened at the Bergdorfs. Now, she testified as the first witness, had a direct examination and a cross-examination, and we've heard from her previously in this trial on other days when E. Jean Carroll was testifying. E. Jean Carroll said, I called her, and so her lawyer and her team is calling her back as a witness. We're going to hear her side of the story, what came out the other end of the phone call. Trial gets started, and our first witness is Lisa Birnbach. Judge enters. All rise. All right. Please be seated. Okay. Yeah, all right. We're back. Anything preliminary? Okay, fine. All right. Plaintiff, Miss Carroll, call your first witness, please. Your Honor, the government calls Lisa Birnbach, the lady we just saw. Carroll's lawyer says, all right, Miss Birnbach, thanks for being here today with us. Now, Miss Birnbach, how long have you known Miss Carroll? She says, oh gosh, I don't know, 32, 33 years. Did Miss Carroll tell you anytime during that time about an encounter she had at Bergdorf's? She says, yes, she did. It was in the spring of 1996, I think. They don't even know the dates. Thank you. Now, Ms. Birnbach, have you been published? You're an author, right? Oh, yeah, I am. Yeah, I've been published all over the place. Places like The New Yorker, Parade Magazine, Spy, TV Guide. Spy? What was that? She says that was a satirical magazine. Wow. And have you written any books? She says, yeah. 22, in fact. What are they about? Well, about the way we live, you know, just this and that and the other thing. Nothing political, though. What else have you done in your life, Lisa? I was a host on the VH1 show. I'm sure nobody remembers it. It was called The Whole Enchilada. Wow, so you've been in the media a long time. Wow. Now, Lisa, how did you meet Miss Carroll? She says, we had a couple of dinners with another couple. I had admired her reporting in Outside magazine. And what was Carroll's job back then? I remember that she was running the Ask E. Jean Carroll column, and she also was running a TV show by the same name. She says, I was on it once. And how did you come to know about Donald Trump? She says, well, I met Donald Trump at a party, a birthday party. And when I was there, he invited me to write a story about Mar-a-Lago. He told me he was turning it into a club. He called me about once a month to talk about this. And did you write the article? She says, yeah, I did. I traveled to Mar-a-Lago on Trump's private plane in late January 1996. I stayed 2 nights there. I had a tape recorder with me and I recorded a stream of consciousness of Mr. Trump as he gave me a tour. It was mi casa, tu casa. Wow, it sounds like an interesting trip. She's like, yeah. Now, did Donald Trump call you after the article came out? No, but one of his assistants did. And what were you doing when Miss Carroll called you about being assaulted? She said, I remember it vividly. I was feeding my children, age 6 and 3 back then, if they have the year right. If the year's wrong, then maybe they were 5 and 2. She got the time right, so they don't know whether it was 95 or 96, but she says it was between 6 and 7 p.m. And when you answered the call, what did Miss Carroll say? She said, Lisa, you're not going to believe what happened to me. She was breathing hard, sounded like she had a surge of adrenaline coming out. She told me her story about how they ended up in the lingerie department. I was just sitting there surprised. I couldn't believe what she was saying. Well, what were you thinking? She says, I thought that it was kind of nutty. You're kidding me. That is an understatement. Tell me about it. I thought that was kind of nutty. She told me she told Donald Trump, why don't you try it on? They were in a dressing room and then he slammed her head against the wall. And then he slammed in his arm and his shoulder against her. And then he pulled down her tights. And then he penetrated her. How? With the thing. She says, I knew my children didn't know the word, but I was on the phone and I ducked out and I told her, I said, Eugene. Her kids are eating there, 6 and 3 or 5 and 2 or maybe 7 and what's the number? Whatever. Who knows? Who cares? Their kids are there. And she says, she steps out. Eugene Carroll, he attacked you. I'll take you to the police right now. You got attacked. I'm on my way to get you. Now, why didn't you go over there? Well, she said, E. Jean Carroll said, no, I don't want to go. Interesting. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to go? I mean, if it's a true story and you just got attacked and your friend who you just called is shaking you out of your stupor, your post-attack stupor, she didn't want to go. We had a fight. She said, and so we fought. We fought back and forth about this. You should go. You got attacked. You got attacked in there. Had to step out of the room. How long was the call? Oh, I don't know. 4 minutes or so? Okay, that's a pretty quick call. Takes longer to order takeout. 4 minutes. Then I reheated and then I reheated my kids' nuggets. Probably for 4 minutes, you know? Might be a little long for a reheat, but not much time. So I said, okay, you want to go to the cops? You want to go to the cops? No, you should. Well, I don't want to. All right, well, my kids are hungry. I'm going to go throw those nuggets back in the microwave. Anything else you need from me? All right, have a great night. You want to tell anybody else about it? She says, no. She didn't want to talk about it. And so why didn't you tell anybody about it? Well, I honored it. Her lawyer says, did anyone else you knew tell you they were assaulted? Trump's lawyer says, objection, Your Honor. Anyone else you knew tell you they were assaulted? So Trump's lawyer is objecting. He's going, what? Anyone else? Like, do you have anything else? Like, maybe the next follow-up question will be, have you read any articles also about people who attacked Donald Trump? Have you heard any rumors? Have you seen any tweets about other people who've attacked Donald Trump? Judge, objection. What does a tweet have to do anything with this case at all? Judge is like, I'll allow it. Yeah, whatever. Just let it in. Is it harmful to Trump? Perfect. Let it in. Objection. I'll allow it. So the lawyer continues and asks the question. And she says, yeah. Other women friends in the mid-90s told me they had been assaulted by men. Other people have too. Did you and Miss Carroll ever discuss the assault again? Ever again? Not until 2019. Isn't that curious? What happened in 2019, I wonder? Oh yeah, Trump's running for office again. Yeah, and this whole lawfare game plan scheme starts in full effect. And so they go out and just like lawyers will get mesothelioma patients to sue on behalf of, they're finding good plaintiffs to bring under their wing for a political legal battle. Never discussed it again until she needed her witness. So from the mid-90s all the way till 2019, no conversation until boom, we need you to come testify in a litigation lawsuit we're filing against Trump. Did she discuss any romantic relationships with you? No, she didn't. Lisa, have you donated any money to political candidates? She says, yeah, I have. Who was that? Hillary Clinton. And where were you on election night in 2016, Lisa? I was at my apartment, West End Avenue. I was there with 25 friends, and guess who else was there? E. Jean. Were there any Trump supporters there, Lisa? No. Did you have dinner, Lisa, with Miss Carroll and Carol Martin, another person referenced? She says, yeah, we did. We went to Carmine's restaurant down on Broadway. She gave us blue envelopes with ribbons on them. She said, read it, but don't show anyone. I never read it. I felt it might create responsibilities. Now, what is that all about? Let's see if they hit that back on cross. Carroll gave Birnbach a letter with a blue ribbon, said, read it, but don't show anyone. And she said, I never read it. You believe that? Says, Lisa, I want to ask you about this piece in the New Yorker. She says, yeah, I wrote a New Yorker magazine Talk of the Town piece about E. Jean's Hideous Men of New York tour. She didn't mention Donald Trump in it, but I did write about it. What was the title of that? She says, I don't know. I can't remember. It had the name Hideous Men on it. I can't remember it. And here it is from the New Yorker. Inner City Press pulled that up. Follow him to go get the link. Lisa, when you saw the excerpt in the article, did it match what Miss Carroll told you in 1996? She says, yeah, it did. I called her and I told her what a good piece it was. I said, tell the fact checkers I don't want to be named. Trump was president with a following that was rude. Her lawyer says, all right, now I want to show you an exhibit here, Lisa. It's called Exhibit AJ. Was this text message up here, was this sent before or after the excerpt? I sent that after. Megan is Megan Tuhey. She's the reporter that E. Jean had sent me each chapter as an email. Where did she send you that from? She was in intensive care. Lisa, did there ever come a time when you agreed to be publicly identified as the friend that E. Jean was talking about? She says, yeah, there was. After E. Jean invited Carroll and I to lunch with her in New York, with New York Times reporters who wanted to write about what happened to her, I was named in the New York Times. Right. So, yeah, it's in 2019. They've got another election coming up. Hey, you remember that phone call I made to you back in the 1990s about Trump attacking me? He's like, oh, yeah, I remember it exactly. Exactly. Now that you mention it, I do remember it exactly. Yes. Oh, it's coming back to me. Exactly in 1995 or 1996, sometime in between one of those 2 years, 28 years ago. Got it. Perfect. Yeah. Great. We're going to sue him now. Perfect. We got the whole team together. Birnbach says, Megan Tuhey interviewed me and Miss Martin in my apartment. They put it on the Daily. I was very active on Twitter at that time, and I received a lot of anti-Semitic attacks after the interview. Everything's an attack. I know. Everything is horrendous. What did you think of the book, Lisa? She says, well, I wasn't into the mix of travelogue and hard stories. Are you mentioned in the book? She says, I'm one of 3 people that she dedicated the book to. And our wedding shopping trip for Lauren, E. Jean's niece, and the Bergdorfs. Says, Lisa, did you think of the assault? Talking about this? No, that was about Lauren. Now, her attorney is asking her, this is E. Jean Carroll's attorney, is saying, Lisa, did you do media about Donald Trump's assault? She says, yes, I did. I did NPR, I did CNN, and I did Anderson Cooper. And we have that segment. So let's see what she sounded like when she did show up on Anderson Cooper to discuss this case.
Carroll says she immediately told 2 close friends about the incident. Both of those friends have talked on the record, corroborating the conversations they had, but they talked off camera to the New York Times. Now, one of those friends, Lisa Birnbach, has decided to talk with me about what happened in her first television interview. I spoke with her earlier. First of all, how do you know E. Jean Carroll?
E. Jean was the best friend of the girlfriend of my former husband's former partner.
It rolls off the tongue.
Exactly,
wow, yeah.
exactly. So we met at some social gathering at this guy's apartment.
So you've known E. Jean Carroll for how long?
I would say about 29 years.
Okay.
And I'm basing that on when I was pregnant, and
Right.
I
Yeah, 'cause
think
it's
I was
so long
pregnant
ago.
with my son when I met her. So
And you had actually, you actually had known Donald Trump back in those days.
I wouldn't say that I knew him. I would say that I interviewed him in either December of 1995 or January of 1996 because he allowed me to be the first journalist to see Mar-a-Lago as it was making its debut as a club instead of just his summer or winter house.
So do you remember the day E. Jean called you?
I remember that it was dinner time. I lived on 93rd Street then. I had, based on when it must have been in 1996, I had a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And like many phone calls, at dinner time, there must have been a lot
Didn't that transcript say 3?
of, wait, hold on, put that down. Okay, what were you saying? You know, I mean, I was a distracted mom of 2 little kids and had other stuff going on as well. So I
Yeah, so you don't pay
remember
much attention to
her
your friend getting attacked by
talking
Trump.
to me very fast, very breathlessly, laughing too, and telling me the story of meeting Donald Trump outside or right inside Bergdorf's.
Was she calling you from the street? Because she said that when she left Bergdorf Goodman, she went into her bag, picked up a phone, and
I think she was, yeah.
Calling.
Yeah. And why me? Why did she call me? I think either because I had just written this story and she knew I'd just spent time with him, or because I had a very easy phone number. And she said she remembered my number. In fact, she still remembers it. So that might have been it. I mean,
Do you remember what?
So she writes an article about Trump, and E. Jean Carroll, the first person that comes to her mind when she's allegedly attacked by Trump, is to call somebody else who wrote about Trump, maybe because that person might be interested in another story about Trump. There's no real other reason that she called, other than maybe her phone number is easy to remember. So not a good friend at all. In fact, the call was haphazardly received in the middle of feeding her kids.
She said?
Yes, some of it. She said, Lisa, you won't believe what happened. And she said, I was walking through the door at Bergdorf's, and
This is a
you won't believe who
PG-13
said hello
show.
to me. It was Donald Trump. And he said, are you the hi advice lady? And I said, hi, real estate guy. And he said, you're so smart. Why don't you give me advice on a present? And then she told me how she tried to interest him in stuff on the first floor, which made sense. You know, it was kind of a cute, meet cute, and a interesting thing to do with someone who is kind of a New York character. And then how they got upstairs on the escalator. I think he likes escalators. And then how they got into the lingerie department. At this point, I thought my memory is a little blurry on the fact that I thought she was in the dressing room by herself and he broke down the door, pushed the door in. But apparently, as she told you, he followed her in and she thought she was having, kind of a play date with.
It's not just apparently. Those are pretty important details. Did she tell you that he broke the door down and then came in there and attacked her? That's different than her walking in and sort of inviting him in there, if it happened at all. But these are how you break down lies. You catch people in their little inconsistencies as the story conveniently changes time and time again as the years move on, which is why you don't prosecute cases that are old. There's a reason we have statute of limitations and don't allow this type of stuff to go on, because evidence gets spoiled. It gets terrible as time goes by. And here she said it herself, I can't even really remember. So it's a bunch of people who are just telling a story about Donald Trump. It's like the game of telephone that you play. You say one thing and then by the end of it, something vulgar comes out the other end. These games are wild. But this is essentially more hearsay. Just like I had a phone call 28 years ago.
Him. It seems like she was still laughing and not scared. And what I do remember E. Jean repeating many times was, he pulled down my tights, as if that were the worst of all of it.
She repeated that several times.
Several times.
Was she laughing in the phone call to you?
A
Because she
little.
said she had been laughing initially in the phone call.
She was a little. Again, the laughter, nervous or adrenaline or whatever it was, plus he pulled down my tights, made it seem like it was awkward and bad, but maybe not as bad as it turned out to be. And then she told me how he pushed her against the wall and pinned her, I guess, with his shoulder. And it hurt. And also, she had just had maybe head trauma. I mean, not a doctor, but maybe
She
that
said
was...
when he pushed her, she bumped her head against the wall.
Yes, and it hurt. And then he, with his free hands, managed to penetrate her in some form. So she said that, and I think at this point...
She said he had penetrated her?
Yes.
With his penis?
Yes. And at that point, she said she wasn't sure how far, that maybe it was... I mean, I can't believe we're having this conversation, but maybe it was some, maybe it was all. Now, at that point, I definitely left the dinner table because I didn't want to say what I was about to say to her. Stop it, put that down. E. Jean, that's rape. He raped you. No. It was 5 minutes of my life.
You used that word to her, that this is rape.
Yeah, that's the word that came to mind. That's the concept that it seemed like it was rape.
When you said to her that that's rape,
yeah,
because she still doesn't use that word.
She hates that word. I didn't even understand that until now. But she didn't say, she demurred and she said, no, we were fighting. Forget it. Don't tell anyone. Will not speak of this again. I said, you should go to the police. Let's go to the police. I will take you to the police. And she said, no, 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 no. I just want to go home and take a shower and go to bed. And even though I'm a bit younger than E. Jean, I sometimes feel like the mom in our relationship. And I said, well, come to my house and I'll feed you and, we'll take care of you. No, 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 I just want to go home. But she asked me to keep this a secret, and I kept it a secret.
You never spoke. Did you ever speak to her about it again?
Never.
Really?
Never again?
Never.
There was
Until 2019, when Trump's running again, and George Conway's in her ear, and Reid Hoffman is funding the whole thing, then suddenly pops out of the woodwork. Hey, guess who this is? I have no idea who this is. Hey, it's E. Jean Carroll. I remember you. Hey, we've got this little scheme we're concocting. Can you come be a witness in my trial? You're like, yeah, perfect. I hate Donald Trump.
never a follow-up phone call saying, look, you really should go to the police?
No. No, I never called her again about it. I went back to chicken nuggets and,
Did you know that she had called her other friend?
No, and nor did I know. No, it wasn't my story. It was her story. Apparently, she told Carroll Martin the next day.
Used to be a local anchor in New York.
Correct, a lovely local anchor with whom a colleague of E. Jean's on America's Talking cable network, and she told her in person maybe the next day or the day after, also swore her to secrecy. Now, Carroll had
Everybody
a whole different attitude towards the episode, and she told her so. Don't tell anybody. This guy has lawyers up the gazoo, and he'll sue you, and he'll deny it, and he'll make it uncomfortable for you. So between my well-meaning advice and Carroll's well-meaning advice, E. Jean took really Carroll's advice and kept quiet about it. And I was startled that she told the story.
I'll be right back with more of my interview with Lisa Birnbach. We discuss why E. Jean Carroll didn't come forward with her claims in 2016 when then candidate Trump was running for president.
All right, so we've got that clip. Now we'll go back to the trial. Now that we know what she sounds like and who she is and a little bit more about her story, let's tune back into this. So, did you do media about this, Lisa? She says, yeah, I did. Anderson Cooper, we just played the clip. Lisa, did you write about this on Facebook? She says, well, gosh, I haven't been on Facebook for some 5 years, but yeah, I probably did. I actually had a podcast too. It's called 5 Things, which we'll come back to during cross-examination. Lisa, on your podcast, did you talk about Donald Trump? Oh yeah, we did. Did you talk about him as being a narcissistic psychopath and Vladimir Putin's agent? Lisa, this is from her own counsel. And as we talk about here, this is called drawing the sting. They know that her direct testimony, if this is not addressed now, Trump's lawyers are going to beat her up badly with this. And so they're getting it out now. Did you call Trump a narcissistic psychopath on your podcast? Did you call him Vladimir Putin's agent? She says, probably, yeah. And my guests were not fans of Donald Trump either. She says also, I said those things right after the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. Trump's lawyers, objection! Judge, it's not an insurrection. You can't call it that. Nobody's been charged with insurrection. That is overly prejudicial response. They object. What does the judge do? Overruled. It was an insurrection. Get out of here. So counsel says, Lisa, did you say that the cult of Trump will decline and he will be dealing with lots of lawsuits, maybe like this one? She said, yes. She said, the guy had done a lot of bad things. I was hoping he would have to account for them. And you had a podcast, right? Yeah. When did your podcast end? She said, when Joe Biden became president. And if you go over to YouTube, you can actually find her podcast there. Lisa, why are you testifying here today? Trump's lawyer objects. This is irrelevant, Your Honor. Overruled. Pipe down. I'm here because my friend is telling the truth. Yeah. Counsel, no further questions. Judge says, all right, we're going to do a 15-minute break. And we fast forward through it. Now, Trump's lawyer is back up. Judge says, Mr. Tacopina, cross-examination. He says, Lisa, I'm looking at your records here. Is it true you only contribute to Democrats? Is that right? I think I may once have contributed to a pro-choice Republican. I'm not sure about that. He says, well, I'm sure about it. Let me go to the deposition that we had with you. He grabs a paper, he flips it open. It says here on page 37, it says, you said only to Democrats. Do you see that? She says, oh yeah, guess I said that. So it's fair to say you're not a fan of Donald Trump, Lisa? She says, yeah, that's right. In fact, on Facebook, you said, does it get worse than Trump? This slime ball? Did you say this? I've never felt the hatred I feel toward this person. Deranged. I've never felt the hatred I feel toward this person. You put that in writing and posted it on Facebook, you psychopathic person? She says, yeah, maybe. Trump's lawyer says, on your podcast, Lisa, with Kurt Anderson, which you can go listen to, I'm sure, you said you think about Trump every hour, quote, when I sleep. Is that right? And when I sleep is when you think about Trump? She starts laughing in court. She's like, yeah. And he goes, did you say that, Lisa? She goes, yeah, I did. You've never hated a person worse, and you think about him when you sleep. Wow. And with Alexandra Pelosi, when you had her on your show, you said that Trump is like herpes. Did you say that? And she did say that. We have the clip. I dug it up today, and this is what it sounds like from her podcast with Alexandra Pelosi.
You're listening to 5 Things with Lisa Birnbach.
Hi, it's Lisa Birnbach. Do you want to see the Aaron Sorkin version of the election and this year, or do you want to see it made by the director of Parasite? I feel like I've been an unpaid extra for almost 4 years, and I'm done. I'm done with his voice. I cannot listen to Donald Trump speak. I feel like it irritates an infection, or he is an infection. Maybe that's just me. I just can't wait for this to be over. And I am saying this because it's not going to be over soon. No matter what, he'll be president till January. God help us. And you know what? We're going to hear him. We're going to hear him forever. He's part of who we are now. He's like herpes. We got him and we can't get rid of him. But you know what? We just have to be patient. We cannot let the urge. People are saying they've waited 4 years to vote. And that's a good point. I mean, we just have to be patient. We won't know the answers right away.
Yeah, like herpes. So I don't know what life experience she has to make analogies like that. But okay, right. You see the type of people. This is what they do. I can't sleep. I'm thinking about him. And I've never hated somebody so much as this man. He's like an infection in my body that I can't get rid of. And these are the people who are working against Trump's team here. So the judge cuts him off, says, Lisa, you said Trump is like herpes. Is that right? Apparently there's an objection, and the judge cuts him off. And Tacopina says, Your Honor, this is ridiculous. This is evidence of her bias. She called him an STD. Can I ask about this, please? He says, you don't say, like it's evidence of bias. You don't say, but it's a compound question, so I'm not going to allow it in. So he's getting him on technicalities, right? You ask 2 questions together. And I don't even see that in the transcripts. But in other words, this judge is just, in my opinion, protecting this case and this witness and not letting Trump's team make an argument. And Trump's team chronicled that in a video we published yesterday. Judge Kaplan says, you don't say, but it's a compound question. And he says, all right, I guess I'll move on. So with Chris Whipple, Lisa, on your podcast, on another episode, you said that the cult of Trump will decline and he'll deal with lawsuits. Remember that? You said something like they think he'll run for president and that's crap or something. And you said that Trump is demented and he's a Russian agent. He's bad. Did you remember saying that? Did you make that statement? She says yes. And Trump's defense says, in your residence with Miss Carroll president, the judge says, you've promoted her. President, he corrects himself. I mean present. In your residence with Miss Carroll present, he asks a question. And she says, I don't remember the year. He says, well, okay, let's go to the deposition. You were asked if you forgot the year. Carroll's lawyer says, objection, it's sustained. He says, hey, Tacopina, you didn't lay any foundation here. Here's what the question was. It was off page 45. Looks like they go back to the record. Is it your testimony, Lisa, that it never came up in your mind? Answer, it did not come up. Trump says, well, that's why I brought it up, Judge. And he says, sorry, that's why I sustained the objection. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but we move on. So he now goes back to Lisa and he says, okay, Lisa, so you do remember it now, do you not? And the judge says, remember what? And he says, the incident, Judge, at Bergdorf's. She says, well, it came back to me. I remember it now. Trump and his team holds this up. He says, what is this? Looks like it's defendant's DI. She said, well, that's an email from Miss Carroll about our event at the Wing. He says, okay, so you wrote the main thing is to sell books in this email, right? And she says, yeah, she was on a book tour. That's how writers make money. The main thing is to sell books. Yeah, of course. That's all I have, Your Honor. Nothing further. So then the plaintiffs come back for E. Jean Carroll with a redirect. They say, Lisa, Mr. Brandt here, apparently it wasn't Tacopina, it was Brandt. Mr. Brandt just asked you about the book tour. And she says, yeah, due to security concerns, actually, she could not do a book tour. Why not? Followers of Mr. Trump would, objection, overruled. Trump's lawyers tried to keep that out of there. The judge, of course, lets it in. Oh, his supporters were threatening her. That's why she couldn't do the book tour. Lisa, in 1996, was Donald Trump known as a political figure? No, not at all. In this message, you said that Meghan doesn't like sardies. What was this lunch about? That was the interview with the New York Times reporter. And in 1996, Trump was not political at all. He was a real estate guy who harassed a lot of women. Brandt, for Trump's defense, he says, Your Honor, move to strike. 403, it's too harmful, it's too prejudicial, it's not helpful. He harassed a lot of women. So the judge says, yeah, you're right, I got to keep that one out. Disregard the part after a real estate guy, all right, who harassed a lot of women. So he just cut that part out. Can't say that, strike that. Carroll's lawyer says, Lisa, would you lie to stop Donald Trump from being president? She says, no, I wouldn't. Nothing further. So a brief recross comes back. Trump's team says, all right, Lisa, in 2019, Trump was a political figure, wasn't he? Yeah. He was the president, wasn't he? Yeah. Nothing further. Next witness. And we are done with Lisa Birnbach. And so we wrap up that witness. Lisa Birnbach, the first contact from E. Jean Carroll, had a very brief 4-minute phone call while she was heating up chicken nuggets for her children. Never talked to E. Jean Carroll again till 2019, when it came time to open up a new avenue of attack. And here we are.